So Duncan, this is the prototype hardware for the MIDI bender. Um, it consists of a processor board here with a display mounted on top of it, and then there's a MIDI interface board over there with the MIDI leads going in and out. So basically it just intercepts a MIDI path, any MIDI path, and it modifies the control signals. I'll just show you how it behaves when I switch it on, and then you'll be able to see the sequence of events and it'll probably make more sense. So let me just turn it off and on again. So that tells you MIDI bender version 0.1, and here we enter the channel, and I use these, as I say, I want to emphasise this is just a prototype at the moment. Obviously it looks in a right mess, but anyway, if I turn this particular pot here, I can then adjust the channel from 1 to 16, and the next one, this second pot here, provides a particular MIDI function that we want to do. Now on this keyboard, let me just come out and show you the keyboard that you lent me. This is I've actually marked up on here which channels, which control functions are on which of these controls. So I've marked them all in pencil, as you can see underneath each slider. So let's just choose one. Let's just say the brightness one here. We'll modify the output from that so that it's no longer linear. So we'll come back here, and I'll set it to channel 1 because that's what the keyboard's set to already. And we'll set the function to 4A. 4A, that's right. And then I press one of the buttons here to move on. And then let me just show you what we have by way of controls here. So this is just showing a one-to-one mapping of the input to the output. We can now change the shape of this curve, and that then represents the mapping that gets done on the control signals. So for example, you wanted to slow one of them down in the middle. I think it was one of the pedals. If we do that, sorry, notice the rather slow display update. That's what comes with using cheap prototype components anyway. So I can actually now put a sort of S bend into that curve and show you how it can then level out the response in the middle. Or in actual fact, I can turn it the other way, which I know we don't need, but it was just as easy to do, and speed up the response in the middle. So let's just put it back as we thought we would have it. And you can actually, I've made it so that you can actually move it too far, so in fact you can actually invert part of it in the middle, so it goes up, then down slightly, and then up again. I mean, you're not likely to want to use that, but I just did it because it makes demonstrating it easier. So let's just leave that there, and then the next thing I can do is move the position of that shelf up and down. So that moves it down and that moves it up. And let's just show you the final control, which lets you move it sideways as well. So we can now make a mapping that looks like that, or we can move it all the way to this side like that. And in combination, you can get some frankly bizarre mapping shapes that you would probably never want to use, all the way, for example, from there to there. Now that one just gives you an exceptionally steep rise in the output value for a tiny input value, then it levels off with that slight dip and so on. So let's just put it to say there, and what I would predict, I'm just going to show you now, looking at the computer screen, how this actually works on the real control signal. Let's just make sure the keyboard's functioning as we'd expect. That's great. I'm actually going to show you first of all, so do you remember I said it's channel 1 and function 4A in hex, which is the brightness control. I'm going to use the one next to it, the timbre control, and to show you one that has not been modified. So as I slowly rotate it to the right, you'll see it's showing 4/7 there obviously, and then the numbers rise more, well, I guess you can't see, but it's more or less rising as I'm rotating the control in a straight line. So there's up to 7F, and then I'll bring it back down again. So I'll bring it back down more quickly. So that is an example of an unmodified control function. And now I shall do the brightness control, which is the one that we've remapped. Now, we know that this is going to rise up slightly more quickly, but you, as I say, I know you won't be able to see that. And then it will level out, and this is what I wanted to show you. So it's rising, continuing to rise. Now you can see that it's starting to level out, so it's now at the top of that first kind of hill that I showed you, and it will just start to dip down slightly, 67, 66, 63 to, now I know you, as I say, we don't actually want this, but it's just a way of making it clear what's happening with the remapping. And now it's starting to climb again, and it will climb quite quickly up to 7F and back again. And down. So it is selectively and correctly picking out the channel and the function and modifying just that, and everything else goes straight through. So basically we can make any, more or less any shaped map with S-bends biased to the left or the right or the top or the bottom. So this should provide a reasonable amount of flexibility for experimentation.